Hey Jory! So, I know it's Camp NaNoWriMo this week, but I have not really been doing any editing or writing. I've been kind of behind on my internship for a little bit, so I'm just kind of focusing on that. And I'm gonna do some editing and writing when I get the chance. So this week I did go to the bookstore. My brother actually wanted to go to the bookstore and I said, I'll go with you, shocker. So you may have seen my post on Twitter or Instagram about that. I went in and I came out with 3 books more and $30 less. So that's how that went and why I should not be allowed in bookstores. So Hannah actually gave me the idea on one of those posts to do kind of a book haul on that. So I decided I would talk about the books that I did buy the other day at the bookstore, and then I would also go through some of the books that have been on my shelf and are currently out for the summer, because most of my books, I have enough books to fill the entire bookshelf back there. I don't know how well you can see that in frame, but I do have enough books to fill that whole bookshelf and more. The problem is they're all packed away. I think I have them in like 5 different boxes packed away, because my family recently moved a couple months ago and I've been in school and I might be moving into an apartment next year, so I kind of don't want to unpack them, which has been hard because there have been books that I just like, oh, I want to read that or I want to look through it or something, and I can't because it's packed away in a box and I don't even know where it is, which has been kind of frustrating. But I do have some books out that I am going to show you today. So the first book that I bought at the store the other day was Virals by Kathy and Brendan Reichs. I think I'm saying that last name right. You can correct me if I'm wrong. So I bought this book because Hannah told me to. She has been trying to get me to read the series for a while now, and I pretty much knew nothing about it except the little tagline here by James Patterson that says, if you like the TV show Bones or Maximum Ride, you'll love Virals. I haven't seen that much of Bones, but I do think I would enjoy the concept, and I know I like the Maximum Ride books. Plus, it's Hannah's favorite series, so I'm gonna just take it on that, and I gave it a go. Currently, I'm about 125 pages into it, and I'm really enjoying it so far. It's about a group of 4 friends who end up rescuing a wolf puppy from one of the experimental labs on an island near where they live, and apparently that causes a lot of havoc. I haven't gotten quite into the action yet, but what I have read has been fun anyway, and I'm really enjoying reading this. I think I'm going to fly through it, which is why I've decided to try and read this to get out of my reading slump. I've been in a reading slump and I haven't gotten very far in Carve the Mark. Sorry, Megan. But yes, I'm going to try and read this to get out of my slump so that I can go read Carve the Mark, which is more of a higher fantasy book and takes a little more concentration to actually reading it into. The other 2 books I bought at the store the other day are This Savage Song and Our Dark Duet by Victoria Schwab. I already talked about these books in my Books I Want to Read This Summer video. They're both by V.E. Schwab, who is one of my favorite authors, as I've mentioned, and I'm pretty sure this is just a 2-book series, so I have both of them now, and they're matching covers. They're so pretty. I love them. So I'm going to be able to read both of these pretty quickly once I get into them, and I'm really excited to tackle another series by Victoria Schwab. She is a master at fantasy and good characters with intriguing stories, so I'm excited to see what these are about, because I haven't heard much, but I've heard they're good. So I think I'm going to use that as a segue into the rest of my bookshelf, which includes these 4 Victoria Schwab books. I think I've already talked about these 2, but basically these 3 books are a series, the Darker Shade of Magic series, which I am telling you have to read. They are so good. Parallel Londons, awesome magic systems, great characters. Just pick them up, they're amazing. And then we have the book Vicious, which is the first in a different series, and the second book to this, I believe it's called Vengeance, will be coming out sometime next year, so I'm excited to read book 2 when that comes out. But this one's about 2 college-age, I guess, guys who kind of killed themselves and brought themselves back to life in order to get superpowers, and it doesn't quite go the way they wanted it to. But it's a really interesting story, and it's a really cool look at kind of good versus evil, and more of a new take on the trope of 2 best friends are also enemies. So pick this up if that sounds interesting to you. Next, I'm just going to mention these briefly too. I know you already know about I have Carl the Mark and the Fates Divide, and I am a little bit into the first book, but I haven't gotten very far. I think I'm still on chapter 2, but this is a fantasy and it's taking me some time to get into just because I've been in a bit of a reading slump, so I'm trying to read vitals before to get out of that slump so I can give this the attention it deserves. The next book on my bookshelf is Warcross by Marie Lu. Oh my gosh, this book is so good. If you liked the book Ready Player One, or if you like virtual reality or twist endings, this is the book for you. This book is a really fast read. I think it's a little over 300 pages, but it feels shorter than that. Basically, the premise is there's this game called Warcross, which everyone plays, and it's in virtual reality. And our main character knows how to hack into it, and she decides to try and hack into it during one of the biggest World Cup type of World Series games and grab one of the most expensive power-ups so she can sell it on the black market in the virtual reality world. But the problem is, instead of taking the power-up, she accidentally hacks herself into the World Cup, and everyone in the world sees her avatar appear in the middle of the arena. So this kind of incites a whole bunch of craziness, and she gets picked up by the guy who invented the game to help with something. And I can't really say much more than that, but I'm telling you, if you like espionage, or you like virtual reality, or hacking, or games, or anything like that in a very near futuristic world, maybe like 5 to 10 years in the future it feels like, then check this book out. Another book out on my shelf is Obsidio, which I just finished at the beginning of the summer, so you know all about it, but it is out on my shelf. I do own the first 2 books in the series, but they are somewhere packed. But it is nice that I do have a matching set that I will eventually be able to showcase on my bookshelf. Okay, so this book I have on my shelf because I brought it with me to school, because I read it last year and I absolutely loved it. And it's called Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I feel like you've probably heard me talk about this before at school, but if you like high fantasy at all, like Lord of the Rings, or kind of poetic but really well done writing style, you will like Laini Taylor. Now, she has another series which I have also read and I absolutely love. The first book of that series is called Daughter of Smoke and Bone. You can check that out, and all 3 are already available. This is the first book in a new series, and basically the premise is that this guy named Laszlo Strange is really obsessed with this mythical realm or world or city or whatever that may or may not exist. And he was playing make-believe one day, and then all of a sudden, the name of that city disappeared. It wasn't in his mind, he couldn't remember what it was, and no one else had even heard of the city. So something changed, and he decides he's going to figure out and learn everything he can about this unnamed city and how the name of the city has magically disappeared from the world. Now, this is high fantasy, so I guess it does move a little slower, but I honestly didn't notice when I was reading it because I was just so enthralled by the magical realms and the kind of mystery of the whole story. So I really enjoyed this book. Next is the book I read a little while ago called Artemis by Andy Weir. This is the same author who wrote the book The Martian, which was then turned into the Matt Damon movie The Martian. I love that movie. I think it's so much fun, and I thought I would read something else by the same author. I did enjoy this book, but not as much as The Martian. I have not read the book The Martian. I've only seen the movie, but I do think I would like that one a little bit more than this. It was good, it was scientific, and it was engaging. It just wasn't quite as good as I think The Martian was. But the premise of this book is the main character is a smuggler. She lives on Mars, and she smuggles things from Earth to Mars. But that gets her into kind of a bad situation when one of the things she smuggles turns out to be really dangerous, and now people are trying to kill her or enlist her help in sabotaging the government, and it just kind of gets really crazy from there. This was a fun read, and if you like sciencey things or things that kind of explain the science of the world to you, this is a good read for that, so you can check this out if you want. Next up, I have Heartless by Marissa Meyer. Marissa Meyer is one of my absolute favorite authors. I keep saying that, but she writes fantasy. She wrote the Lunar Chronicles, which is one of my favorite series, and I do own them all, except for the fact that they're, you guessed it, all packed away. So this is the only Marissa Meyer book I have out right now. This is a retelling, I believe, of The Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland. I have not read this yet. I keep meaning to, but I haven't actually gotten around to it. My mom has, which is really funny because she enjoys Marissa Meyer's books too, because I got her to read the Lunar Chronicles. But I have not read this yet, so maybe I'll add this to my list of books to read this summer. We'll see. And finally, the last book on my bookshelf is Because You Love to Hate Me. I don't know if you've heard of this one or not, but basically this is an anthology of, I believe, 13 different authors writing short stories about villains. Basically, they took 13 different booktubers and they had them give a prompt to the author that they were paired up with, and then the author would write that short story about a villain using the prompt. And then after that, the booktuber got to read that short story and write a little essay or article about kind of something villainy related. So for example, the first article is by Christine Riccio at Poland Bananas Books, and she wrote a fun little article about the evil vaccine keeping the darkness at bay, and it was a lot of fun and really exciting. And so I haven't read much of this. I think I read maybe a third of it so far. I do mean to read the rest of it because I like most of these authors, and I want to read the articles by the booktubers as well, but also, like, the cover is gorgeous, so I just enjoy having it on my shelf. So that's all I have for you today. I know it's kind of not the normal thing. I don't have much writing or editing things to talk to you about. Hopefully next week I'll have more to talk to you on that front. But for now, that's all I got. If you like this video, click the subscribe button and click the little bell so you can get a notification when I post a new video. And then go follow Jory's channel so you can keep up with our whole back and forth this summer as we continue to discuss all of our writing, editing, and reading and other book-related things that we're doing this summer. Bye, Jory!